Hello, friends on YouTube, and welcome back to another book review from me, your humble host, Logan Albright. This week I read a book called The Library at Mount Char. It is the first and only novel by novelist Scott Hawkins. It came out in 2015, and it was recommended to me by my friend Allison, who you may have seen on the channel before if you pay attention to those sort of things. I don't do a lot of modern fiction on this channel because, truthfully, I don't read a lot of modern fiction. Most of what I read is classics, older works, and I don't really know that much about modern fiction because I'm just not that into it. But this was recommended to me, and I like books about libraries, so I read it, and I ended up really loving it. I really thought it was a lot of fun, a really great kind of gripping read, something you can read really fast, and something that will be a page turner and that you want to just plow through, which is refreshing for me because a lot of the books I read, while I enjoy them, are quite dense and heavy and they take me a while to get through. I'm currently rereading Ulysses, for example, which I will review for you as soon as I finish it. But it's a lot harder to read than something like this. So it's nice to have a change of pace and read something different. I'm a sucker for books about books, frankly, and I'm a sucker for books about learning. And that's one of the things I loved about this. The library at Mount Char involves a group of people who were kind of kidnapped from their parents as children and raised in a magical library where they are taught all kinds of secret hidden knowledge about the world that kind of give them superpowers in a certain way. They each have a different area of specialization, and they each learn, things that ordinary people would have no way of knowing, and things like communicating with animals, things like magical healing powers that are way better than any kind of healing powers we have, things like traveling to the world of the dead, things like learning every language, including the language of storms. Really exciting stuff there. I really love learning stories about learning. I remember when I read The Princess Bride, my favorite section is the training montage where Inigo's learning to sword fight. And other people may not find that stuff that interesting, but I love it. I think people learning to do things is really fascinating. I don't want to say too much about the plot of this book because I think one of the things it does really well and one of the joys of it is the way that it kind of gradually spoons out information to you. There's, different time periods that are reflected. Some of the chapters are flashbacks, some of them are modern day, and you really have no idea what's going on for most of the book, and you kind of get little doses of information as it goes along, and you find out more and more about the characters and about the world they live in, which is pretty cool. It keeps you guessing, and it keeps you on the edge of your seat, which I like. So I don't want to say too much about it, but the kind of opening state of play is that this library something has happened to the curator of this library, the person who has educated all of our main characters, and they call him Father, and he's gone missing, and they don't know what happened to him, and they can no longer access the library, and so they're kind of trying to figure out what's going on, and the plot unfolds from there. There's a kind of a normal person who's sort of the audience surrogate, whose name is Steve, and he's got a connection to our main character, whose name is Carolyn. And you kind of learn about their relationship and what their history is as the book goes onward. But again, I don't want to get in too much to the plot because I don't want to spoil anything for people who want to read it, because it really is a joy to find out more and more about what is going on and what things are happening. I will say this is sort of a fantasy horror novel. It's not exactly scary, but there's a lot of gore in it and a lot of gruesome imagery. And so if you're bothered by that sort of thing, you're certainly not going to like it. It's pretty extreme, but to me it was done in such an over-the-top way that it didn't bother me, and I thought it was kind of fun. But there's a lot of death and a lot of dismemberment and a lot of destruction. And so if you're bothered by that sort of thing, you won't like it, but I thought it was a ton of fun. I think the plot is really tight. I think it's very cleverly constructed. I think the characters are good and interesting and complex. You learn a lot about the different characters, and none of them have simple motivations. None of them have simple personalities. They all kind of have a lot going on, which I always like to see. I like complex characters. So that's a lot of fun. I'm trying to think of other authors to compare it to, but since I don't read a lot of this type of book generally, it's hard for me to come up with examples. I'm reminded a little bit of the fantasy aspects, sort of a Neil Gaiman, although certainly less jokey and more adult than Neil Gaiman. And then I'm reminded a little bit of Aaron Morgenstern, who wrote the Starless Sea and, of course, The Night Circus. But again, better than both of those books, I think. I really had a hard time putting this book down. I really wanted to find out what happened. And I love the world building. I love the idea of this magical library with all these different fonts of forbidden knowledge. It's just something that really appeals to me on a personal level. So any book that kind of delves into that is something I'm going to enjoy a lot. I don't have too much more to say about the book. I guess this ended up being kind of a short review, but without spoiling plot features for people, which I really don't want to do because discovering the plot is such a joy in this book. I don't know much more to say about it, but I had a blast reading it, and it was so much fun. And like I said, it's very dark in places, very gruesome in places. Certainly not like a frightening suspense book, but a lot of gore and action, and a lot of really beautiful fantasy. And I thought the ending was wholly satisfactory. I was perfectly happy with how it ended. I thought it did a good job. So yeah, I loved it. I'd like to know more books kind of in this vein. If you have recommendations for me, please leave them down in the comments and I'll check them out, because I'd like to read more books like this. I think it's a genre that I haven't explored as much as I ought to have. And so it'd be nice to hear from people who have read this and know of other books like it. And if you haven't read it, I encourage you to check it out, because it is a lot of fun. So thank you guys for watching. I've been Logan Albright. I'll be back again next week with another book review for you. Please leave a comment down below. I'll chat with you. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll keep making more videos like this for you every week. And until next time, I'll catch you later.